part of our plans for Belanjawan 2025 and to ensure a healthier Malaysia, we are happy to announce that we are going to increase sugar tax for all sweetened goods from 50 cents per litre to 90 cents per litre, effective 1st January.
3 days later.
Bang, order bang, bang.
Bang nak order apa?
Bagi Maggi goreng satu tambah telur, lepas tu bagi Coca-Cola.
Okey.
Saya nak satu nasi goreng dan Coca-Cola.
Okey. RM20 bos.
Oi, apa macam ni expensive?
Maggi goreng 7, nasi goreng 7, 2 Coca-Cola RM6.
Baik, Coca-Cola bukan satu RM2.5 je. Kenapa telur tu jadi RM3?
I don't know lah bro, you ask the abang why go and charge me more expensive and buy his drinks.
Hey bro, the government put tax on my drinks. If I don't charge higher, I bankrupt bro.
Macam ni expensive. Give me air kosong saja, antara Coca-Cola.
Dan bang, saya nak satu Coca-Cola.
Okay. Ais kosong 1, Coca-Cola 1, Maggi goreng, nasi goreng.
So everyone, based on the reactions of citizens, what are your opinion on the higher sugar tax rate on sweetened beverages?
Well, firstly, I believe that this is an initiative by the government following the recommendation from the WHO to combat the rising case of obesity.
Yes, I agree, as the WHO has recommended at least a 20% increase in the price of sugar-sweetened beverages.
That's a good point. So in your opinion, what are the effects of this price increase towards consumer?
Well, I believe that this price increase to a consumer would drive the consumer to look into the substitute products. A study was conducted by academic researchers and published in Journal Economy Malaysia, a peer-reviewed journal from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, showed that a 10% increase in the price of sugar-sweetened beverages would lead to an increase in the consumption of evaporated and condensed milk by an average of 0.3%.
I'm sorry, why increase in SSB price will cause the demand for evaporated and condensed milk to increase?
This is because Malaysians are very fond of beverages such as tea, Milo, coffee, and all kinds of drinks that contain milks, which combine creamer and sugar that produce a delightful taste. This shows that evaporated and condensed milk, among others, are the preferred substitutes with the increase in SSB price.
If I may add on to that, the revenue generated by the tax can be used to implement awareness programs on the topic of obesity, such as nutrition-related campaigns. A study conducted by the Ministry of Health MOH Malaysia showed that respondents generally support the allocation of SSB tax revenue towards the health campaigns, particularly to increase the public awareness of the impact of sugar consumptions. Some also suggested that channeling parts of the fund into health research programs.
My opinion is, although the price of sweetened drinks have increased, I'm sure there must be some of the consumer who will still buy it. The data from the Malaysian Ministry of Health 2024 technical report found that SSB tax implementation did not have a significant impact on the sweetened drink consumption. Those who were aware of the SSB tax still consume a higher volume of sweetened drink. Adolescents who were aware of the SSB tax consume significantly more sweetened drinks, which is 924.71 ml per day, compared to those who were not aware of the tax, which is 800.60 ml per day. Adolescents with parents who were aware of the SSB tax also consume a significantly higher amount of sweetened drinks, which is 799.58 ml per day, compared to those with parents who were not aware of the SSB tax, which is 735.57 ml per day.
I concur with Zishan for the data that you have. Not everyone will stop consuming sweetened drinks although the price has increased. However, consumers who view sugar-sweetened drinks as their necessity may face financial burden as the price increase means they have to spend more. Due to the price increase, consumers may choose not to buy the sweetened beverage. This could be proved according to the findings from the 2022 National Health and Morbidity Survey. The study shows that the prevalence of daily carbonated drinks consumption dropped from 36.9% in 2019 to 32.4% in 2022.
I'm quite confused with the data from Zisheng and Ryan. Zisheng mentioned that even after the SSB tax, and even when people are aware of the tax, many still consume sweetened beverage. Some groups consume even more, despite higher prices. But Ryan mentioned that daily carbonated drink consumption fell from 36.9% to 32.4%. Why is it different?
I think it is because of the difference between sample and population data. Ryan is using the sample data that studies some of the consumers' behaviors, but Zisheng is using population data that study the total sweetened drinks consumption in Malaysia.
Exactly. Although the data from Zisheng shows that some consumers are still buying sweetened drinks, but the overall data shows that the consumption is dropping. This shows that the SSB tax could decrease the consumption of sweetened drinks.
Yes, and this will cause consumers to buy substitute products.
So, in conclusion, in a consumer viewpoint, the sugar tax have a positive impact as it helps fund health campaigns that raise awareness of the health risks associated with excessive sugar consumption, such as obesity and diabetes. This increases awareness together with higher price, reduce the overall demand for sweetened drinks, and encourage consumers to shift towards healthier substitute products. Although some of the consumers continue to purchase the sugar-sweetened beverage, but the tax is still effective in promoting healthier consumption patterns and improving public health outcomes.
That's interesting from the consumer side, but I wonder, how does the sugar tax affect producers and their decisions?
From my perspective, most obvious thing that company will do is to pass the tax on to the consumer. As a company tries to absorb the tax, it will not last long due to the increase of the cost production and decrease of their revenue.
Yes, I agree with Zisheng. As a study conducted by the Malaysian Ministry of Health, KKM, in collaboration with UPM and UNICEF, had interviewed 5 producers of sugar-sweetened beverages and had been asked what they would do given the sugar tax was implemented. The 3 large SSB producers interviewed revealed that they either fully absorb the tax or pass on half to consumers. Yes, we raised price by 3% and partially pass the cost to consumers, producer B.
However, there's another method that can be used by producer without increasing the cost, which is reformulation of the product affected by the sugar tax. An example such as in the UK during April 2018, double tire tax for drinks over 8 grams of sugar per 10 ml and drinks less than 5 grams of sugar per 100 ml incur no additional tax, and it encouraged manufacturers to reformulate their products and focus more on non-sugary drinks.
I agree with Evie, as such an example can also be seen in 2022 when Health Minister Datuk Seri Zulkifli Ahmad was questioned by Senator Susan Chemerai Anding's query on the effectiveness of sugar tax and its positive impact on public health. It was stated that the study showed that 40 cents per litre sugar tax had minimal impact on the market price, resulting in only 2.24% increase compared to the anticipated 8.83%. Zulkifli said, which might be speculated, more companies than anticipated decided to reformulate the drinks to avoid the tax.
Although reformulation is a good way, but not every reformulation can be accepted by the consumers. From the study that I mentioned before, a SME producer attempted reformulation for a few months, but found it difficult to maintain and face rejection from consumers. This producer eventually decided not to pay the SSB tax. This evidence shows that the increasing the SSB tax puts this company in a difficult position. They cannot raise prices and attempt to reformulate their products, and they are rejected by consumers. As a result, they are forced to maintain the sugar content but choose not to pay the SSB tax.
I see. So while reformulation works for some large companies, smaller producers face a real dilemma. Large producers can absorb part of the tax and do reformulation, but the SMEs might struggle to do so without losing consumers or profits. This shows that the sugar tax affects producers differently, depends on their size and resources.
Considering these producer responses, passing the tax to consumers absorbing it or reformulating it, we can see how consumer behavior is also affected. Since consumers respond differently to price increases, some continue buying while others switch to substitute. This leads us to the concept of price elasticity of demand.
Well then, how about the effect of this sugar tax on elastic demand?
Well, I believe in terms of price elasticity of demand, we can refer to an article authored by Dr. Nurashida Muhammad Noor from UPM, who wrote that the estimated price elasticity of demand being 1.11, the percentage change in price being 8.33%, the expected percentage change in quantity of SSB demand or consumed will decrease by 9.25%. Since demand for SSBs is elastic, producers bear more of the tax burden than consumers.
In terms of income elasticity, I think we can refer to Ecuador, which indicated that sugar-sweetened beverages were normal goods with a coefficient income of elasticity of positive 0.79, which means that the 10% increase on real income increases the consumption of SSB by 7.9% in Ecuador.
Okay, I would like to add on that. In Brazil, the poor were more price sensitive than the non-poor and presented two different own price elasticities, which were negative 1.03 for the poor and the negative 0.63 for the non-poor.
Not only that, the cross-price elasticities of sugar-sweetened beverages on milk and plain water estimate in Chile were found to be positive, which showed that milk and plain water were substitutes good for sugar-sweetened beverages.
So, how about the effects of it towards inelastic demand?
Okay, when we're discussing about the inelastic demand, it's important to understand how sugar tax works. The tax raises the price of sugar-sweetened beverage with the goal of reducing sugar consumption. However, this effect only occurs if the expected chain reaction occurs, which is the sugar tax makes the price become higher. Higher price means that the sales will become lower, and overall, it means that the lower consumption. But in reality, the change can be break really easily. For example, first, the producer might absorb the tax by themselves. Second, the consumer might still buying the drinks because they think it is a necessity. The third, the consumer may switch to a cheaper brand, but it's still sugary drinks. I have a few evidence that can prove this. Okay. In France, 2012, they also occur the soda tax is about 7 to 10%, and the Hungary's sugar tax is about 20 to 30%. But all the result is not significant because of the many consumers still continue buying their habitual sugary drinks. These cases shows that while sugar tax can reduce consumption to some extent, demand for sugary beverage is relatively inelastic, meaning price increase lead to only partial decrease in consumption.
I would also like to say, in terms of price, although industry is sometimes able to absorb some or all the tax without raising the prices, experience has shown that businesses are more likely to increase profits by raising prices beyond what is needed to accommodate the tax. When Berkeley, California introduced a soda tax in 2015, Colley and Friswold in 2015 found retail prices rose by less than half of the amount of tax.
Basic economics theory predicts that when price go up, demand will drop. However, there are a number of effects at work. If a product makes up a high proportion of people's budgets, in effect, their real income habits reduced too, and they will take another decisions to change their shopping habits as a result. Economics evidence shows that the demand for soft drink is elastic, which is to say that a 1% increase in the price leads to a less than 1% decline in consumption. Example, a 13.1% increase in the price of butter resulting from the Danish fat tax was followed with a 5.5% decline in sales.
However, it must be noted that the elasticity part only happens given that ceteris paribus.
In conclusion, Is it safe to say that the policy is more effective for elastic demand?
Yes, I agree. So as elastic demand, a change in the price leads to a bigger drop in demand for sugar-sweetened beverage.
I also agree. From the example that Evie mentioned before, a 10% increase in the price of sugar-sweetened beverages has been shown to increase the consumption of substitutes like evaporated and condensed milk by an average of 0.3%. This shows that consumers respond to price changes when demand is elastic.
I concur. For products with elastic demands, the sugar tax effectively reduces consumption because consumers respond to price increase by buying less or switching to substitution products, helping to lower the sugar intakes. Producers are also affected, as failing sales might encourage them to reformulate product or adjusting price. Therefore, the policy is more effective for products with elastic demands.